Welcome to the Coastal Kitchen. Hi, I'm Karen Mashers, and today we're celebrating. We're making a special occasion cake with vanilla buttercream icing. And you know why? Because this is our 50th episode with the Coastal Kitchen. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing we have to do when we make a cake is grease and flour our pans. And I have got this one greased and floured. And I am going to cut a parchment round. Just take some parchment paper. This is so easy. We're going to fold it in half. And in half again. Just make sure you get good creases. And now we're going to make a triangle. And we're using 10-inch pans today. So if I wanted to use a ruler, if I measured 5 inches, I'd probably be able to cut this first off. But we're going to try it without. I'm going to eyeball it. Okay. Just take your parchment and place it in about the center. Put your fingers towards the edge and then make your first cut. And go with the curve of your paper. Let's see how this does. You can see, great circle. And it fits just right. Okay, now I've got my paper in my pans and I am going to do a special thing today. I have found out that sometimes I don't want to use purple and dots. So I've got some color mist and it's edible. It's by Wilton. And what I have done is I have sprayed, so I have gold for 50 years. 50-year anniversaries, 50 shows, and all you have to do is spray lightly, let it dry, and then respray again. So we're going to let that sit and come back and spray that again later after it dries. Let's come over here and start our cake batter. Okay, this is a great white cake. It is very easy to make and I enjoy using it. If you don't want to make your own cake batter, boxed cake works just fine. Okay, so I'm going to put in my butter. I've got 2 sticks of butter, which equals 1 cup. And we're going to put that on medium to start creaming it. And I'm going to start adding my shortening, because I want that to incorporate right into the batter with the butter. We're going to let that go until it gets a little fluffy. Take about 3 to 4 minutes. So I'm going to turn it up. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this for just a second. I'm going to drop the bowl and I am going to make sure that everything on the sides gets nice and fluffy too. So just scrape down the sides. Go over the bottom, and if you use a hand mixer, do the same thing. Come back with the scraper. Okay. Let's keep going. Everything looks great right now. I'm going to come back and turn this down low. And we're going to put our sugar in. Now I'm just going to add a cup at a time slowly. Alright, we're going to increase the speed. Want all that sugar and butter to mix together and hold. Alright, let's scrape down those sides again one more time. And while I'm doing that, I think I'm going to move this just a little bit closer to me. Alright, we're going to add one egg at a time, and we have got 5 eggs to add. I want this to incorporate before I add the next one. And these are room temperature eggs. Okay, I'm going to turn this off now, lower it down one last time, scrape it down, and get our dry ingredients ready. I've got some all-purpose flour, and I'm going to put this in my little sifting strainer, and I'm going to put in my baking powder and some salt. We need to sift our flour. The one thing about making a cake is that you want to make sure that you follow the recipe, because baking is where it really does count. In regular cooking, it's not quite as important. You can be a little freer with your portions. Alright, getting that last little bit in. Now, I've got half a cup of buttermilk, and I'm going to mix it with half a cup of whole milk. Okay, my milk and my buttermilk, and I've got some vanilla extract and some almond extract. Want those in, and I'm going to grab a fork here, and I'm just going to whisk it together so it's ready. When we start with our dry ingredients, we'll follow it with some wet, and we'll finish with the dry. Yeah, let's grab a great big spoon. Okay, we're going to start this up again. I'm going to increase the speed to medium. Drop it down one more time, scrape down the sides, and we're nearly done with our batter. About 1 minute, and we're ready to pour it in the pans. Alright, it looks ready. Let's get this out. And I'm going to take it right over here to my pans. Grab my spatula. And I need to get everything out. Now, if you like thin layers, we're going to make a 3-layer. If you don't, make a 2-layer. And what I like to do is I like to measure. I've got a scale that slides so I can find out exactly how much I put in my cake pan, so it's pretty even. And I'm going to start with about 20 ounces. Okay, that's good. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it completely covers the bottom of the pan. Just jiggle and wiggle. Give it a couple bounces on the counter. It takes care of air bubbles, and that's going to be ready to go in. I'm going to get these two done, and they'll be ready to go in the oven. Alright, last one done in the oven, 350, and all three of my pans will fit. Okay, all three in one. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsors. The cakes are in the oven, and when we come back, I'll be making that great buttercream frosting. See you in a few.
When you start with local produce, add some homegrown Carolina pride, and mix it all with a commitment to family, you get more than a locally based grocery store. You get the taste of home. Lowe's Foods. Lowe's Foods, proud sponsor of the Coastal Kitchen and ATM CTV.
Welcome back. We're getting ready to make our icing for our special occasions cake, and I'm going to make two icings today. The first is buttercream, and we're going to work that as the first icing on the cake, and then we're going to make a Crisco icing for decorating. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm putting a whole stick of butter in my mixer, and we're going to start creaming that right away. This is going to go about 3 minutes, so it's nice and fluffy. And while that's working, we're going to start with our Crisco, because that's the same process. I'm going to put 3 cups of Crisco into my mixer. And let's get this started. Let's turn this off. This is about at mayonnaise consistency, which is what I want on the Crisco. Now, on the buttercream, we need to turn that off and just get in here and scrape down the bowl a little bit. We're going to start that back up, and I'm going to start adding my powdered sugar. Now this has been sifted. It's 4 cups, and I'm going to add a little bit at a time, a little bit slower, because you don't want it flying back up at you. We're going to add about 3 to 4 tablespoons of milk total, and I'm going to put 2 in there right now. Add a little bit more sugar. And with buttercream, as any icing, sometimes you have to tweak your ingredients just a little bit, maybe a little bit more sugar for a little thicker, a little bit thinner, use a little bit more of your milk. Alright, let's put another one in. And now I'm adding a half a teaspoon of salt. Salt brings out the sweetness, actually. A little bit more sugar. Now I'm putting in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I'm going to scrape this down just a sec. And for spreading thickness, I think I'm going to add about a tablespoon more of my milk. All right, that's ready. Now let's come back over here to our Crisco frosting. Now this is just about mayonnaise consistency, and we're going to do the same thing we did just a moment ago. We're going to start adding our sugar. And this is 2 pounds of sugar, and actually works out to be 2 boxes because each box contains a pound. Add a little milk. Total in this recipe is a 1/2 cup. This recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. Let's grab this tablespoon right here of vanilla, and I'm using clear vanilla because I want it to be a very, very white frosting. Now I'm going to put in a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and let it run. Finished putting in my sugar, and it'll take about 4 more minutes. Okay, I'm going to turn this down. I'm going to remove that piece right there. And what I want to do is I just want to scrape down the sides on this one. Make sure everything is incorporated the way it's supposed to be. Look at this, snow white. I mean snow white. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this back on. I'm going to clean up just a little bit, get my cakes out ready to decorate. We'll be back after a word from our sponsors.
When you start with local produce, add some homegrown Carolina pride, and mix it all with a commitment to family, you get more than a locally based grocery store. You get the taste of home. Lowe's Foods. Lowe's Foods, proud sponsor of the Coastal Kitchen and ATM CTV.
Welcome back. Now it's time to put our cake together. And the first thing I'm going to do is on my turntable, I'm using just a little bit of sticky holder, and I'm going to put this right on because I want it to be removed easily. Wanted to show you that my cakes, I've had them in the fridge for just a little while. I've got granulated sugar on the top because when I take them out of the pan, I don't want my wax paper to stick and ruin the top of the cake. So we've got this going. Okay, I'm going to take the bottom layer And I want the very bottom of the cake to be on. And I'm going to take just a tad of buttercream right in the center and center that up. Now, I'm pressing down, and it's okay to press down, okay? Just don't press down so hard that it cracks it. Now, I'll take my finger, and at one point, I'll just take a peek and make sure that I'm just about the same distance from all sides. Okay? Just a touch there. Okay. Now we're going to crumb it. And I'm going to use my buttercream. I'm just going to put some buttercream on the top. Nice little layer. And now I'm going to take some of my buttercream and put in a piping bag, because we're going to fill this cake with some raspberry jam. Want to put a little bit in. You can see I'm just using a tea glass to hold it. And we're going to twist it. And I'm going to come in about an inch. Then I'm going to put some raspberry jam in. I love raspberries, and most of my family does too. And you can use the seeded kind if you want, but I'm using the non-seeded. Spread it all around. And now it's time for layer number 2. Just give it a little round to get some of those crumbs off. And this layer is going to go upside down. Right on top. Okay, and what I want to make sure of is that I've got it even, all sides. And some more buttercream. Now I'm going to get my Crisco frosting, and I am going to just put a little bit on top. Of my buttercream. Alright, just want to smooth this out just a little bit. And I'm going to get me some wax paper, or the kind of paper that people put French fries on. Just good old restaurant paper. You can cut it up and slide it under your cake. And I'm going to use an offset spatula just to lift it up a little bit. Just want a little edge. See where I'm coming from here. So I can keep my board clean. Okay, that's enough of that. Now it's time to ice the sides. And we're just going to put a thin layer on to begin with. I'm going to come right here. Just want to put a little bit. And I'm going to use my offset spatula. Easier to work with. Just want to give it a nice light coat. fill in those cracks. All right, got a coat on. We're going to put this in the fridge, let it sit for about 15 minutes. Cake's out of the fridge. Time to put our final layer of icing on. And I'm just going to throw some on the top here because I always ice the top before I ice the sides. So we're going to turn and we're going to do our best to go into one direction. Have you ever thought there's a difference between frosting and icing? Well, what we're doing is we're frosting the cake. Icing really is a much thinner substance, and you would actually pour it on like a pedophore if you have a sugared icing coming over the top. Now, I'm not a professional baker. I just took a lovely course at our local community college, and that's where this icing came from. It's actually called Dee's Frosting, and I fell in love with it because it's easy to work with and it really tastes good too. Get it as smooth as you can, but you don't have to have it perfect, because the thing that's more impressive than anything else is that you've made it. That's what makes it so special. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this a cake of flowers. And I'm taking my tip. It's a number 20 tip, flower tip. And I'm going to put these together. And I'm going to do one smaller one, and then a larger one, and then a smaller one. And I'm going to let it hang just a little bit over the sides. So let's get this finished on the top. Okay, got that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these papers very gently, and some icing is going to come off, but don't worry about it, okay? Okay, you can clean up your cake board with just a little damp paper towel. No problem, it'll clean it right up, make it as good as new. Alright, we're going to go for the bottom now. And I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to make these even. And we're just going to do a nice big flower on the side. And it covers up all of that little bit of crack. Okay, that's got that. What I like, now these are all edible. Dragées are edible, they're sugar, and this one actually has a little bit of chocolate in it. And I take a pair of tweezers and place one right in the center of my flower. And I'm going to finish this. We're going to have a word from our sponsor, and we'll be back to have a piece of cake.
When you start with local produce, add some homegrown Carolina pride, and mix it all with a commitment to family, you get more than a locally based grocery store. You get the taste of home. Lowe's Foods. Lowe's Foods, proud sponsor of the Coastal Kitchen and ATM CTV.
Okay, all in, all done. Remember, when you make a cake, it's from your heart, so you don't have to worry about being perfect. You can find us at facebook.com, search for the Coastal Kitchen. And I'd like to say, on behalf of the crew of the Coastal Kitchen, we've just finished our 50th episode, and this cake is for you. See you next time.